Alright, so this is a video that many of you have been asking me to make. It's about something that happened with EA recently, a hack, in fact, that EA has confirmed to be true. So, first of all, I'd like to show you this article from Bleeping Computer titled Hackers Breach Gaming Giant EA, Steal Game Source Code, as this is the outlet that captured this screenshot showing a forum where essentially the hackers trying to sell off this data for a whopping $28 million. I mean, I don't know who would take the hacker up on that, but among the things that were stolen apparently include debug tools, SDK and API keys, FIFA 21 matchmaking server, FIFA 22 API keys and some SDK and debugging tools, Frostbite source code and debug tools. That's any source code stolen can be particularly detrimental. Many proprietary EA games frameworks and SDKs, Xbox and Sony private SDK and API key, Xbox, PlayStation, and EA, PFX, and CRT with key currently used. And then it says right here you have full capability of exploiting on all EA services. The total dump is 3/4 of a terabyte, 780 gigabytes. Now, this data breach was even reported by some mainstream outlets like CNN, and they actually spoke to somebody called Brett Callow, the cybersecurity expert and a threat analyst at Emisoft. And as far as the detrimental effects of this hack goes, he specifically cited the stealing of source code, stating source code could theoretically be copied by other developers or used to create hacks for games. Anytime source code gets leaked, it's not good. Hackers can comb through the code, identify deeper flaws for exploit, and sell that previous code on the dark web to malicious threat actors. And with the source code of Frostbite, which is the engine that is used for so many EA games, with that being stolen, that could potentially open up the path towards exploitation and other hacks and less than ideal actions on the part of the perpetrators. Initial reporting of this was conducted by news outlet Vice in this article, where one of the paragraphs reads, hackers have broken into gaming giant Electronic Arts, the publisher of Battlefield, FIFA, and The Sims, and stole a wealth of game source code and related internal tools. Motherboard has learned, Motherboard being, I believe, a subsidiary of Vice. And Motherboard was among those who reached out to EA for a comment on the situation, if they could confirm or deny any of this, and how much damage has been done. And this is the statement that a spokesperson responded with. We are investigating a recent incident of intrusion into our network where a limited amount of game source code and related tools were stolen. So EA has confirmed that this is real. This isn't just somebody making some stuff up or a false threat. This did happen, but EA insists that the impact and repercussions haven't been as bad as some people might think. EA insists that no player data was accessed, and we have no reason to believe there is any risk to player privacy. Following the incident, we've made security improvements and do not expect an impact on our games or our business. We are actively working with law enforcement officials and other experts as part of this ongoing criminal investigation. Now, they keep insisting that no player data was breached, but I have to wonder if employees were affected by this at all. This story sort of harkens to what happened with CD Projekt Red when they were hacked, and the source code of basically all their games were leaked, from Witcher to Cyberpunk, you name it. It's all out there. And among the things that also kind of made its way out into the internet was personal information of employees, and so the employees had to take steps to secure some of their private information and change stuff around so that this doesn't become a security issue for these individuals. EA hasn't commented on employees and whether they were affected by this. The hope is that that wasn't the case, as that would be hugely detrimental. But at the very least, a good amount of data, source code in particular, was stolen, and EA says that they do not expect an impact on their games or their business. So EA is saying that with this leaked information, with this data that's now out there and being sold, that data cannot be exploited to a degree where it would impact their games or their business to an extensive degree, to a point where it would cripple them in any way. That's what they're saying, though they're still investigating, and who knows what investigations will yield about all of this. And more importantly, who knows, once this source code actually makes its way out there, once there is a buyer, one certainly has to wonder what kinds of data we'll glean at as far as FIFA goes. And FIFA being one of the less reputable games because of the way it's designed and the way it incentivizes players to spend money on gambling, it'll be curious to see if people who eventually manage to dig through this information discover nefarious elements. Now, in this situation, it's easy to point and laugh because it is EA and they're among the more despised companies in the games industry amongst the community, specifically the executives and the way they conduct themselves because of all of the shady business practices that they engage in, aside from being awful corporate executives who essentially see their employees as disposable, as the executives, they're given millions and millions of dollars worth of bonuses. Employees continue to get laid off, even when these companies are raking in record revenue. Beyond all that, just the way the games are designed to engage players in compulsive gambling, to have them monetized, to nickel and dime them to a degree that it's just detrimental to the overall gameplay experience and diminishes the potential of their IPs. Like, that's the aspect that people really hate about EA. And, some people might view this as, this is what you get, EA, here's your just desserts. But I'm trying to look at this more objectively, and I'm not a fan of EA, obviously, the executive elements especially. But at the same time, this wasn't some hacker who wanted some justice or anything like that. And even then, the moral areas there, they're very gray. This is a person or a group who wanted to profit off of stealing the work of others. And while there's plenty to be said about FIFA and Frostbite, there are certainly a lot of developers who have no say in the way FIFA's monetized or the business model that EA goes for. Developers who did work hard on some of this stuff, programmers, you name it, artists, whatever. Their work is essentially getting stolen and being redistributed. And with some of these trade secrets and source code out there, it could open up for people with nefarious intent to do even more damage by taking that source code, analyzing it, and finding exploits that they can weave through to cause whatever damage they want to cause. And, the hacker isn't going out of its way to uncover nefarious elements at EA. They're just trying to make a couple $1,000,000 by selling this data. So this is very much a criminal act, and this is definitely something that I do not encourage. At the same time, though, it's only a matter of time before this information makes its way into the public. With CD Projekt, for example, we're just starting to see a lot of this data become public, the stuff that was hacked and stolen and leaked. And one of the things we saw was this bugs and glitches compilation video that CD Projekt had made to kind of poke fun at themselves. And apparently this is something that a lot of development studios do, but obviously that's a video that CD Projekt ran. Maybe they were intending to release it, but obviously with the circumstances as they're now, with how buggy Cyberpunk launched, releasing that video would have kind of been insulting, to say the least. But the video made its way out there after the hack, and we're learning information as we go, and no doubt something similar will probably happen with EA. People, no doubt, will scrounge through that source code once all of that becomes public, and it'll be interesting to see the kinds of information that is unearthed. Unfortunately, it is through stolen data, done through nefarious and definitely illicit means, but what happened, and information will slowly but surely start to roll out. And I'm curious to see if any of this information will come to bite EA in the butt, especially as far as FIFA goes. That's definitely a major part of this hacking job. A lot of data from FIFA was stolen. And honestly, part of me is curious to see how the machine works and what kinds of schemes have implemented to get the business model of loot boxes rolling, and just in general what's discovered through the scouring of this information. But with all said and done, look, I don't feel bad for the executives. They're, as far as I'm concerned, they're criminals themselves with some of the ways they behave, the way they, avoid taxes, the way they treat their employees, and the way they're implementing gambling in games that are advertised for kids. But I'm more concerned about basically everyone else, the ground floor developers, how this might be affecting them. And just generally, stealing is just not something that I approve of. But that's everything I gotta say. Let me know in the comments below what your take is on this hack and what you anticipate we'll see in the coming weeks or months from all of this. Share your thoughts below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.